And later tonight in Colchester, you can hear about proposed budget cuts that could impact the town's schools, roads, and more.
Yeah, town leaders making adjustments here after voters turned down the first proposal last month. Your reporter Anna Stansfield live outside Town Hall explaining what voters need to know ahead of tonight's meeting.
Well, guys, good morning. The town is hoping to make a decision by this Thursday before they send another budget proposal to the ballots in July. That's why they want to hear from locals tonight as they bring up some of the reasons why these potential cuts could have some major impacts. Last month, the town proposed a budget that included an 8.2% property tax increase. When voters turned it down, town leaders started looking at ways to make some cuts. Reductions to the Board of Ed's budget could mean teacher furloughs, cuts to staff, and sharing services with the town. Reductions to the town's budget could lead to cuts to some part-time positions, less maintenance to roads and buildings across Colchester, and potential cuts to senior services and parks and rec. All of these changes would help save taxpayers money every month. But in tonight's meeting, the town wants to know if you're on board and if you want to see anything else changed. The meeting will be held at William J. Johnston Middle School at 7 o'clock tonight, and you can also join it online via Zoom. I'm your reporter live in Colchester, Anna Stansfield, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.